Why hello there, the Walrus Clown here, and you will have to excuse me if I seem out of sorts. I've found a doozy and I have to chug a bathtub of absinthe just to get through it before watching it again. And yes, I woke up to it being on my pad after falling asleep with the autoplay function turned on. You'd think I'd learned by this point, but no. Here we have the made-for-TV animated movie and third film in the trilogy of trash, Polly Pocket and crew in Pollyworld. Otter, roll the intro! So we open on an opening number that I think is supposed to establish the characters for newcomers, but it only succeeds in showing how little of a crap anyone working on it gave. Literally, every female character is a palette swap of the main character Polly Pocket, which would normally be fine if something is well written, well animated, and has a lot of effort put into it that goes out of their way to give their characters strong, identifiable personalities like with G4 of My Little Pony, but they don't do that here. And the character model isn't even a good one at that. It looks like freeware clip art. Hell, the voice of the main cast of 5, so similar that I can't tell which one is talking unless they do a face close-up. And it wouldn't surprise me if it turns out that all of them were voiced by the same voice actor using the same voice for all of them. It's that bad. Anywho, we open up on a pan scroll to a mansion where Polly and the palette swaps are sitting in their PJs, watching a really popular in-universe reality TV show being hosted by a generic milquetoast blonde guy, and suddenly I have a sudden need to watch Chris McClane from Total Drama stab Captain Milquetoast with a machete. Anywho, after we establish that everyone has what I will charitably call a crush on Milquetoast, and that Polly has a butler whom has a name that isn't important, and whom shall be referred to as AskJeeves.com for the remainder of the view. Anywho, then Polly reveals that her super rich dad used his rich person money spending powers to get Milquetoast's reality TV show to shoot a season at Polly's personal theme park, Pollyworld, and that all of them are going to be on the show as contestants. Anywho, we cut to the next day at school where everyone, even the boys, are talking about Milquetoast's TV show. Only for Polyclone number 626 to start being an alpha bitch to her personality-free stooges, thus marking herself as the antagonist, whose motives are that she is jealous of Polly, as if the green eyes weren't subtle enough. Oh good, someone with an actual character flaw outside of loving their friends too much, which isn't a character flaw. Someone to root for. Yay. In between classes, 626 realizes that she only has 2 stooges and you need 5 people to have a group big enough to be contestants on the show, so randomly grabs fraternal twin foreign exchange students and drafts them against their will into quote-unquote being friends. We are only 5 minutes into this damn thing and I already want to kill something. Wait, only 5 minutes? Damn! This is hell. This is actual, bona fide animation hell. Anywho, we cut to Polly and the palette swaps in her stretch limo walk-in closet combo device that magically changes the girls' outfits, that I'm pretty sure was a toy they were trying to hawk so they could be ready and presentable for the show. Then we cut to them arriving at the theme park Polly's super rich father has named after her, Pollyworld, which I'm sure was a playset back in the day because they go on for like a solid minute about a roller coaster that might have something to do with the climax for the film, I'm not sure at this point, called the Pollyworld. Pollyworld, simmer down. I know, you'll get your chance. Then we get this screen.
I can't believe Donovan Ware is right in front of us. I just want to talk to him. I know exactly what I'd say.
Hi. Right.
Well, that went well, don't you think?
Okay, so at the very least that was a joke. Not a funny one, mind you, but it legally quantifies as one because it follows a basic joke formula by setting up an expectation, only subvert the expectation that it's set up by having her do the exact opposite of what she said she'd do. So the writers know the basics of how humor works, but this really doesn't bode well considering that the joke still failed at the speed of suck. Anywho, let's stop and digress for a moment. You remember all those times times I told everyone about how the animation industry was saved during the 80s by lifting the veil between toys and toy marketing? Well, the franchises that are still with us from back then, like Transformers and My Little Pony, all had worlds to explore and characters that audiences could get attached and relate to. In their wake, there are a slew of rightfully gotten cartoon crap that did little more than put toys on screen and wave them in front of kids' faces like jingle keys, and were nothing but marketing vehicles that did nothing else. This movie that was made in the early to mid 2000s, aka an era where marketing executives should have known better, clearly fits into the latter. Moving on. Then, after we get some exposition on how the reality TV show works from milquetoast, all of the students involved have to check into their hotel rooms instead of having them stay at home. Given that Pollyworld has to be near Polly's school, and thus near the community the school serves, is totally essential because they needed to help sell the Polly Pocket Hotel playset, which is something that actually exists according to Google. Anywho, each hotel room has a theme and very expensive decor fitting that theme. Just how much money does Polly's dad have? You would have to exploit the frick out of the working class to accumulate this kind of money. $10 says that no one working at either the theme park or the hotel makes a living wage, has healthcare, or has sick days. Screwing over the working class is perfectly okay, just so long as you don't screw over your fellow financial elites. Shit like this is why older millennials like myself on down are politically making a hard turn left. Anywho, after seeing of Polly and the Palette Swaps playing volleyball in swimsuits, that I'm hoping to hell wasn't meant to sexually excite the fathers who were stuck watching this with their daughters because Polly and the Palette Swaps are all minors, Polly gets called by AskJeeves.com, the butler, to remind her it's time to meet her father for a meal. And that other surprise.
Stay away a minute longer. I had to know what she said.
Actually, she...
Polly! It is such a pleasure to finally meet you in person. I want to hug you, but I don't want to force the new mom thing. But honestly, your father has shown me so many pictures of you, and we talk about you so often, I feel like we already know each other.
I'm sorry, the new what thing?
Honey,
Oh, John, you haven't told her. I'm so sorry. I thought, well, this is awkward.
Polly, I want you to meet Lorelei, my fiancé.
Okay, so we're going with a surprise step-parent B-plot. Where to start? A, are you honestly telling me that this rich a-hole was seeing a woman long enough to seriously consider marriage, and he didn't even bother to tell his teenage daughter that he has custody of that he was seeing someone? Bull! You knocked up your secretary and you're marrying her because it's cheaper than alimony. Admit it! And B, this also tells me that the writers weren't confident enough to have the reality TV plot last the whole movie. So we're shoehorning the step-parent B plot at the last minute to make the runtime. And as a result, are never going to spend enough time with either plot to develop it all the way, and as a result, the endings to both plots are probably going to be ham-fisted and rushed. Then Polly has a conversation about the whole evil step-parent B plot with her palette swaps, where the palette swaps say they will each spend time with her to determine if she is an actual human being or a complete jerkwad, and then tell Polly whether or not to tell her dad that she's cool with her or to dump her like trash. Then we get this stupid padding scene involving popsicles. I have the clue to the first reality TV trial, where Milquetoast has the contestants do a hula competition, where reality TV shenanigans happens and 626 wins, which he does without cheating, surprisingly enough. Then we get Mr. Pocket, and yes, their last name is actually Pocket. Anywho, Mr. Pocket takes Polly and crew out for ice cream and shopping, only for the future stepmom to take a phone call and tell them that she will catch up later. She reveals to the other person on the other side that she is jealous of Polly because Mr. Pocket only thinks of her when she is around, and says that she is going to try and get Mr. Pocket to send her to boarding school, all the while making him think that it's his idea because it's what's best for Polly. This lands her on the jerkwad side of the force. 626 overhears this and demands to be in on the plot to get rid of Polly, or she will tell everyone what she has heard. This leads to a musical montage of Polly and the palette swaps having fun, aka a thing no one watching this movie is having. Anywho, the potential stepmom, who shall be referred to as Karen, for the rest of the review because she more than meets the criteria to be one at this point, she joins the group, and she takes the crew shopping, and we get another lazy musical montage of them going shopping to help pad the movie because the two plots aren't well written enough to fill a full movie. And apparently this movie was sponsored by Popsicle brand Popsicles because they have a product placement in the background of this scene. Then we get back to the reality TV stuff, which at this point has switched with the step-parent stuff and has become the B-plot, where they find out that the next event is a raft race at some kind of rainforest-themed area at the park. That isn't until evening, so we get another scene where Karen and 626 are talking to each other at a roller rink, where we see that maybe Karen might be changing her mind, and her caterwauling about being jealous earlier might have been a legitimate worry about Mr. Pocket only marrying her because Polly needs a mom, not because he loves her, which can be a legitimate concern if you are marrying a widow/widower or a divorcee. They might turn this boat around before it hits the iceberg, but I'm not holding my breath. So after some talking with Karen, they come up with a sneaky strategy to beat 626. Only for Karen to dash my hopes of this turning itself around, going with the ship Polly off to boarding school while making Mr. Pocket think it was for her own good plan during the Rainforest Challenge on the reality TV show hosted by Milquetoast. Okay, this review is going on too long, time to start summarizing. Anywho, then we get a few scenes where they try to have a moment between Polly and her butler, AskJeeves.com. They try and establish that Polly really doesn't need a new mother figure because AskJeeves.com is already filling that role, all the while showing the way to the future by having the internet do your parenting for you, and has a conversation about her feelings towards Karen. Then Karen shows just how much of a Karen she really is by trying to cut Polly off from AskJeeves.com. Then, after another scene where Polly and the palette swaps are being sad sacks about her having to go to boarding school, we get back to the reality TV subplot, where it's a scavenger hunt because we needed another musical montage to help pad the runtime. Anywho, after the palette swaps and 626's team ride the pollyworld, simmer down. I know, you'll get your chance. Anywho, 626 lets it slip that she knows about Polly having to go to boarding school, aka something that she should not know. And when pushed, 626's stooges let it slip that she heard it from Karen, which clues Polly into that something underhanded is going down. Then, after we set up the final competition for the reality TV show, which is a talent competition, where Polly and her palette swaps are going to play music because they have a band. Because of course they have a band. And if I could go off on a tangent for a moment, Polly is the living definition of a Mary Sue. She is perfect in every freaking way. She's popular, is good at both school and sports. She is rich. She has a hit rock band. She is going to willingly go to a boarding school despite not wanting to because it will make her father happy. And her farts smell like bakery fresh cinnamon rolls, and her urine can cure both types of diabetes and all types of cancer. I'm starting to understand why 626 has such a beef with this Milquetoast Rule 63 Second Coming of Christ protagonist. And no, loving your friends and family too much is not a character flaw. Anywho, after 626 reveals that she is going to cheat by making it so that the palette swaps can't show up for the talent show, we get a conversation between the palette swaps about how if Karen has told 626 about boarding school, maybe it wasn't her father, but Karen who set up the whole thing, because apparently the one brain cell the group has between them was in Polly's head at that particular moment. Anywho, then the token non-Caucasian of the palette swaps does some techno babble with footage she took on her phone during the scavenger hunt, because telling us an important plot point after the fact instead of showing us as it happens is the best way to convey a plot point in a visual medium. Anywho, they now have a recorded conversation between Karen and 626 about the plan to ship Polly off to boarding school. Then, later in the evening, the palette swaps hide in some bushes and spy on Mr. Pocket and Karen being barf-inducingly lovey-dovey with each other. Polly decides to sacrifice herself and not show her dad, who is just now given a first name, which is John, by the way. Anywho, Polly won't show him the DVD because Karen makes him happy, even though someone that manipulative really isn't going to be able to have a kind of relationship that isn't abusive in some regard. This is a Jingle Keys cartoon meant to sell toys and do nothing else. So that any kind of forethought about how men can indeed be on the receiving end of abuse in a relationship, that step parents are real people who can have the same kind of living relationship with a child like a biological parent could is completely lost on it. It isn't like the late baby boomer, early Gen X or parents of the mid-20-somethings who were in the target demographic of this thing when it was new, had the highest divorce rate of any generation before or since, and having a positive representation about how your parents not being together anymore isn't the end of the world, and that learning to accept your parents' new spouse and that your step-parents are not the devil would be helpful or something. Profits from selling toys are clearly more important. You totally did the right thing here, Mattel.
You're not helping, you're not helping. Your friend sent you this song 'cause you're not helping.
Anywho, Polly snaps the DVD in half, then the palette swaps have a final group hug, and say that the performance in the talent show is the most important gig of their lives. We get another time-padding musical montage of them writing a new song specifically for the reality TV show. Then the palette swaps show up at the concert hall that you can have a toy of for $19.95, and 626 Stooges have slept in the bushes all night, knowing that the palette swaps would be there so they could trap them with a trap door to keep them from playing later that night at the concert.
Poor Polly has no idea that I have rigged the trapdoors in the stage. The entire band will be trapped beneath the floorboards. Isn't that good?
Ever wonder what you could accomplish if you used your skills for good and not evil?
Not so much, no.
Okay, movie, that was legitimately funny. You get one humor point. Anywho, the palette swaps get trapped, the show starts, 626 starts cheating, more padding.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
And then this happens.
Okay, I'm afraid with Team Pocket forfeiting, the event will come down to...
Palette swaps perform, and Polly, the main singer, because of course she's the main singer, has a singing voice so jarringly different from what her speaking voice is that it's distracting. Here, take a listen.
Hey, I had to call you. Everyone is so psyched about this weekend.
Anywho, 626 and Karen have some unfunny shenanigans together. End up exposing the boarding school scheme to everyone at the concert, which includes John. He dumps her. Movie ends, and thankfully this never spawned a sequel or a TV series, and I never have to talk about this again. Anywho, I have some unfinished business. Go pollyworld! Pollyworld. Pollyworld, use double slap. Pollyworld, use ice beam. Pollyworld. Pollyworld, use Mega Punch! Whirl! I'm the Walrus Clown. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Anywho, I'm out of here. Stay fresh, cheese bags. Boo!